The storm howled over Bone Lake, its winds tearing at the surface until the water churned like a living thing, wild and restless. Rain lashed down in sheets, drumming against the lake's dark expanse. But beneath that tempestuous surface, an entirely different world thrived in silence. Hallowmere Academy, a sprawling fortress of black stone and forgotten enchantments, rested in the depths, cradled by the lake's icy embrace. For centuries, it had stood as a sanctuary for young witches and wizards, its towering spires and twisting corridors shielded by a magical barrier that shimmered like a veil of liquid starlight. This barrier was no mere shield. It was a masterpiece of ancient magic, woven by the Academy's founders to hold back the crushing weight of the water above. Its faint, silvery glow illuminated the submerged realm, casting long shadows that danced across the lakebed like specters from a forgotten age. Bone Lake was no ordinary body of water, and its name carried a weight far heavier than the fish that darted through its currents. Legends clung to it like moss to stone, whispered in the dormitories of Hallowmere by students bold enough to speak of such things. Some said the lake was a graveyard for ancient gods, their bones sunken into the silt, leaching strange, unpredictable magic into the water. Others swore it was a gateway to realms beyond comprehension, where time bent and reality frayed at the edges. To the students of Hallowmere, though, Bone Lake was both protector and captor. The magical barrier kept them safe from the world above, but it also severed them from it, leaving them suspended in a twilight of isolation and wonder. The Academy itself was a marvel, its walls hewn from an obsidian-like stone, quarried from the lakebed centuries ago. The stone glistened with a perpetual dampness, as if weeping for the sunlight it would never know. Bioluminescent moss crept along the crevices, pulsing with a soft green light that bathed the corridors in an eerie, dreamlike glow. The air inside was heavy with the scent of salt and algae, a briny tang that clung to the tongue and lingered in every breath. The rhythmic drip of water, seeping through unseen cracks or pooling in shadowed corners, echoed through the halls, a constant murmur that blended into the fabric of life at Hallowmere. For the seasoned students, it was background noise, as familiar as their own heartbeats. But for newcomers, it was a relentless reminder of the lake's oppressive presence, a sound that gnawed at their nerves until they learned to ignore it or went quietly mad. Hallomere's architecture spoke of its storied past, every stone and spire a testament to the hands that had shaped it. The grand dining hall was its crown jewel, a cavernous space with arches that soared like the ribs of some great beast. Its ceiling was enchanted to mirror the lake's surface, rippling with every storm that passed overhead, a mesmerizing dance of light and shadow. The floor was a mosaic of dark tiles, inlaid with images of skeletal fish, bonefish, the students called them, whose translucent bodies and glowing eyes seemed to watch from below. These creatures were more than mere decoration. They were said to be the guardians of Hallowmere's deepest secrets, their presence woven into the Academy's lore like threads in a tapestry. The towers, Water Clock Tower, with its ever-ticking pendulum, Windrift Tower, where the air hummed with restless energy, and Shadow Spire, cloaked in perpetual gloom, rose from the lakebed like jagged teeth, their peaks crowned with floating lanterns that cast a pale, ghostly light into the abyss. But Hallowmere was more than its stones and enchantments. It was a place of tradition, steeped in centuries of history and shrouded in mystery. Founded by the Vane family alongside other powerful magical clans, the Academy had been built as a bulwark against a darkness that once threatened to swallow the magical world whole. Its motto, Lux in tenebris, light in darkness, echoed its purpose, to train its students to wield their magic as a beacon against the shadows that lingered beyond the barrier. That darkness was not a distant memory, but a living threat, one the students were taught to respect and fear. It had been beaten back, yes, but never destroyed, and it waited still, patient and unyielding, for a crack in the Academy's defenses. Among Hallowmere's most sacred traditions was the Keybearer's Oath, a vow sworn by a select few chosen to protect the Academy's most precious relics. The Keybearers were shrouded in secrecy, their identities hidden even from their closest friends, entrusted with keys to chambers and passages forbidden to all others. These were no ordinary keys. Forged from enchanted silver, they shimmered with runes that glowed like molten gold, whispering secrets to those who dared to listen. The oath bound the key-bearers to defend Hallowmere with their lives, even if it meant plunging into the uncharted depths of Bone Lake to face whatever lay waiting there. It was a duty both revered and feared, for the keys held power, and power, as every student knew, came with a price. Edric Vane was no key-bearer, though the weight of his family's legacy pressed upon him like the lake itself. A third-year student with messy brown hair that fell into his ember-bright eyes, he carried the Vane name with a mixture of pride and unease. His ancestors had been among Hallowmere's founders, their bloodline woven into its very foundation. But that legacy was a double-edged sword. His grandfather, Edric Vane, had once been a key-bearer, a figure of legend, until his obsession with forbidden runes led to his exile. Eldrin's disgrace was a shadow that lingered over the family, a cautionary tale Edric's parents refused to discuss. In the dormitories, students still spoke of him in hushed tones, warning of the fine line between brilliance and madness. Edric, though, could not escape the pull of the unknown. His ember-bright eyes, a rare trait even among the Vanes, marked him as different, a sign some called destiny and others called danger. He had always been drawn to Hallowmere's mysteries, to the secrets buried beneath the lake's surface. On this night, as the storm raged above and the Academy's walls groaned under its distant fury, Edric sat alone in the grand dining hall, a dented tin box cradled in his hands. It had been a gift from his grandfather, passed down despite Eldrin's fall from grace. Inside, nestled among a tangle of feathers, gray owl and black raven, lay a single silver key, its surface etched with runes that shimmered in the dim light. The key was cold against his skin, yet it pulsed with a faint warmth, as if alive with some hidden purpose. He had dismissed the box as a relic of his grandfather's madness, a curiosity with no real meaning. But that morning, after a dream that left him trembling and slick with sweat, he had opened the tin and found the key waiting for him, as if it had been summoned by his restless mind. In the dream, he stood at the edge of Bone Lake, its black waters parting to reveal a spiral staircase that descended into the abyss. A voice, soft and cold as the lake's depths, had whispered, "The key is yours." Now, as he sat in the dining hall, the key's weight felt like a promise or a warning he could not ignore. The hall was quieter than usual, the storm's roar dulled by the Academy's thick walls. A handful of students lingered over their meals, their voices low and subdued, as if the weather's fury had seeped into their spirits. The long tables, carved from dark wood and polished to a mirror-like sheen, stretched across the room, mostly empty save for a scattering of plates and goblets of spiced cider. The enchanted ceiling rippled like water, reflecting the storm in a restless play of light and shadow, while the bonefish mosaics on the floor seemed to shift in the flickering glow of the lanterns. Edric's fingers traced the runes on the key, his thoughts a tangle of questions. What had the dream meant? Why had the key appeared now, after years of lying dormant? And what lay at the bottom of that staircase? He knew he should tell someone, Professor Mallow, perhaps, with her stern face and sharp mind, but hesitation held him back. The key felt like his alone, tied to his family in a way he couldn't yet grasp. Besides, Professor Mallow had little patience for what she called flights of fancy, and Edric had no desire to be dismissed as a fool chasing shadows. He needed answers, not lectures. A sudden clatter jolted him from his thoughts. Across the table, Lila Pinch slammed her book shut with a force that sent a puff of dust into the air. Her long black curls bounced as she fixed him with a piercing stare. Her dark eyes narrowed behind her glasses. "Edric, you're staring at that box like it's about to sprout legs and dance," she said, her voice sharp with exasperation. "What's going on?" Lila was his closest friend, a brilliant witch with a gift for ancient runes and a wit that cut like a blade. They had been inseparable since their first week at Hallowmere, when Edric had accidentally set her cloak ablaze during a potion mishap. Instead of anger, Lila had laughed, her eyes sparkling with mischief as she declared him too chaotic to abandon. Since then, she had been his anchor, though she never hesitated to call him out when he veered toward recklessness. He glanced around the hall, ensuring no one was close enough to overhear. The few students present were lost in their own worlds, their voices swallowed by the hum of the lake. Still, he leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "It's the key," he said, opening the tin to reveal its contents. "I had a dream last night about a staircase beneath the lake. And when I woke up, the key was there, like it was waiting for me." Lila's brow creased as she peered into the box, her fingers hovering over the key but not touching it. "That's strange," she said, her tone cautious. "Your grandfather's key, right? The one he left you?" Edric nodded. "He always said it was important, but my parents thought he was mad. They never believed him." "Well, he was exiled for a reason," Lila pointed out, though her voice softened. "But that doesn't mean everything he said was nonsense. Have you tried using it?" "Not yet," Edric replied, snapping the tin shut with a faint click. "But I think it's connected to the West Passage. There's a door there, small, carved with runes, and I've always wondered what's behind it. Maybe this key fits." Lila's eyes widened, a flicker of alarm crossing her face. "The West Passage? Edric, that's forbidden. Professor Mallow would skin us alive if she caught us anywhere near there." "I know," he said, a grin tugging at his lips despite the tension. "That's why we're going tonight. The storm will cover our tracks, and Pippa owes me a favor. She can keep Mallow busy." Lila sighed, pushing her glasses up her nose with a practiced flick. "You're going to get us expelled, you know that?" "Only if we get caught," Edric shot back, his grin widening. "Come on, Lila. Don't you want to know what's down there?" Before she could answer, a shadow loomed over the table. Tobin Grubbs, a stocky boy with sandy hair and a perpetually worried frown, plopped down beside them, a stack of dry black bread cradled in his arms. "What's this about getting expelled?" he asked, his voice muffled by a mouthful of crumbs. Edric exchanged a glance with Lila, who rolled her eyes but couldn't hide a smile. "Nothing, Tobin," she said. "Just Edric being his usual reckless self." Tobin swallowed hard, his gaze darting between them. "You're not planning something stupid, are you? Because I'm not bailing you out again. Last time, Mallow nearly turned me into a toad." "It's not stupid," Edric insisted, keeping his voice low. "It's important. I think I've found a way into the West Passage, and I need your help." Tobin groaned, slumping in his seat. "Why do I always get dragged into these things?" "Because you're our friend," Lila said, patting his arm with mock sympathy. "And because you're the only one who can eat an entire loaf of bread in one sitting." Tobin muttered something incoherent but didn't argue. He knew as well as they did that Edric's stubbornness was a force of nature, and despite his grumbling, he couldn't stand the thought of letting them face danger alone. The storm raged on outside, its fury a distant rumble through the Academy's walls. The three of them sat in silence, the weight of their decisions settling over them like the lake's heavy waters. The key in Edric's hand seemed to hum with possibility, a call to adventure none of them could resist. Whatever lay beyond the West Passage, secrets, danger, or something far greater, they would face it together. The mysteries of Hallowmere were stirring, and their journey had only just begun.